This is Orlando with Rob Coble.
Calling, please don't call my name. Oh, can you save it till the morning? For I will be here just the same. Well, Lord, I know you drew my number. If you don't call, then I won't come. Oh, can you go and choose another and be a friend where I have none? Whiskey, sing me over, sing me soft and sweet. I got nobody at my bedside, and a six-winged angel at my feet, and a six-winged angel at my feet. I'm asking for a few more hours. This is the lonesomest I've been. I know the best thing about dying is I won't have to die again. Whiskey, sing me over, sing me soft and sweet. I've got nobody at my bedside, and a six-winged angel at my feet, and a six-winged angel at my feet. Well, love, it left me early, and luck has never been a friend. I did not know at the beginning that I'd done nothing at the end. Whiskey, sing me over, sing me soft and sweet. I've got nobody at my bedside, and a six-winged angel at my feet, and a six-winged angel at my feet. Oh, 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 oh,
Hey, everybody. Welcome to This is Orlando. I, again, am your host, Rob Coble. Thank you for joining us. The song that you just heard is called Six-Wing Angel, and it is performed by an artist, performed and composed by an artist that we have joining us today, Edan Archer. Edan, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So that song is, the best way I can describe it is achingly beautiful. Okay. It's got kind of, I don't know, it's got kind of that, I've always said, that Southern Gothic charm to it or something that, is but it's so beautifully presented. Tell us a little bit about how that song came to be.
I will tell you the true story behind, although it is Southern Gothic. It's a little hardcore of stories. So I wrote that song for my cousin David. May he rest in peace. He was an alcoholic, and he died on my dad's front lawn from an embolism. And then it was pretty Gothic how he died, but he was alone. He had been diagnosed with a cancer, and he was alone, and he was drinking his drinking on the night that he died. So like, that's just the level where, he couldn't let go even at the very end. It was his last comfort, his last friend. And that's what he had with him when he died was his alcohol. So I was just kind of inspired to write a song for him about what it would feel like to kind of like meet your end in that way, with just your alcohol to keep you company. So basically it's like whiskey sing me over. When you sing somebody over in the old days, they would gather around your bed and sing songs as you were passing, but he didn't have that. So he says, whiskey sing me over, soft and sweet. And the six-winged angel is kind of like the angel of death in that song. So that's
Wow.
where it came from.
I'm like tearing up here a little bit. So
It's a sad story, dude. That's why we did in the music video. We had this guy kind of acting the part of my cousin. He's a really cool dude named Jim with a big beard. He's like this old biker roadie kind of dude. I was like, you look perfect. And he's kind of like camping out and living in the woods, which my cousin did a lot too. Yeah, that's kind of what it's about. And it's weird because I sing it in my mind. When I sing it, I'm singing it from a man's perspective, even though I never like gender myself in a song, so you can't really tell. But in my mind, it's kind of like a male character. And it's one of the few songs where I am channeling a male character. For some reason, it just came out that way. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, well, you know what? That's interesting because going through your songs, there's a lot of alcohol references. And I mean, obviously you got
in this album, especially, yeah.
Yeah, you have the song "Alcohol," which I think is just awesome about how, it's your best friend until it isn't.
Yeah. And you're like, hey, I thought we were bros.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I know a lot of people that have been taken down by alcohol, so it's very relatable for me to hear some of the things that you're talking about in your songs.
I have a lot of experience with that, and I have a lot, as they say in my family, we're just good old-fashioned alcoholics.
It's the common variety.
Yeah, something that everyone knows. So,
well,
plus it's part of the tradition, kind of like to sing about that stuff, the country tradition. Yeah,
right. But it's cool that, I mean, there is something to me that is very sincere. When I hear a singer or a songwriter deliver their songs and they have a piece of themselves in that song, there's more of an emotional connect for me because you can just feel the real, if that makes sense,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I'm glad that you can feel that, because I think that's how it should be. I mean, singing for entertainment is amazing, and singing other people's songs that you feel connected to is amazing too. There's room for all of that, but for like the singer-songwriter where we kind of sing our own songs, and there's kind of an added degree of just personalness, and it can be a little exposing sometimes. Because you feel vulnerable, you're kind of telling the truth about yourself, and it's not always a pretty truth. And
right.
But what can you do?
So do you find times where you're performing where the song just hits you harder than others, and it's harder to get through, or?
Yeah, but that's just because I try to feel it each time I sing a song, because I want the audience to feel it too. I mean, it's easy to just, when you've played a song a million times, to just be like, blah, blah, blah. But, I try to honor the song each time and kind of like feel what I was feeling when I wrote it. And yeah, sometimes I get real emotional, but I never to the point where I can't. I've actually played at a bunch of my family members' funerals,
Oh, wow.
which was really hard.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I can like play in front of a casket and I just kind of get through it, which is really hard, I can, play anywhere really.
Sure. Yeah, but you know what? Again, I mean that to me is the difference between an artist and a singer, and especially you've been around the Nashville scene around a lot, and the whole business there is predicated on people writing songs and artists singing them, and yeah, sure, there are times where people make that connection with somebody else's song and whatnot, but the people I gravitate towards, again, you just feel that real coming out of it, the people that are writing their own things.
It's kind of a different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And our listeners probably don't know this, but you performed at a house concert at our house a few months back before all this chaos happened.
Yeah.
And, we got to hear you talk a little bit about some of the songs, in your intros and everything. The show, by the way, I wish that we had to film the show because it was just incredible. You played for about an hour and a half in our backyard. I think we had about 35 people there. And
I had my loop station.
Yeah, which we're going to talk about that as well, because that was really cool. That in the oh God, the dulcimer.
My dulcimer.
Yeah, which was also very cool. So we'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things that you talked a little bit about your writing process, and that too was kind of a family thing in a lot of cases. You mentioned that you did a lot of writing with your mom.
Yeah. I do more writing without my mom, of course, but I do sometimes do writing with her, and I think that's really meaningful. She taught me to play guitar when I was a kid. My dad did also. He taught me to finger pick. But my mom taught me to sing. Like we used to sing in a family group with all the sisters, like kind of a family folk band, where we would do murder ballads and folk songs and all that kinds of stuff. Actually, we just did a Facebook Live concert because we're all quarantined together, where we did those songs. And it was so cool because we haven't done them all together with all three daughters and my mom for I don't even know how many years. I won't say, but quite a few years there it's been. So, but yeah, we've. I
just lost. I can still hear you. Oh, there you are.
I put my phone on airplane, but I got a call.
Oh, that's weird. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay. No, you're back. That's no worries.
Should I check and make sure it's on airplane again? It is on airplane.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
It's a temporary thing. I could still hear you. But anyway, continue.
Okay. If that happens again, I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, okay.
Hit the button if you can still see me and hear me. So, but yeah, I do write a lot with my mom. She's a good writing partner when I can get her to listen to me. She has her way, but she's a really talented writer in her own right. So
you grew up in a very musical family then.
Super musical. Yeah. Started out, both my parents used to play in bands and picking parties, and my dad plays bass and guitar, and my mom plays dulcimer too, and they sing and they write. And we used to just go out to, when we were kids, and everybody would be jamming at a picking party and just kind of hanging out. And White Springs Folk Festival was a big one. I don't know if y'all know that in Florida, but that was a cool one. We used to run around barefoot and between the little bonfires and hear the different groups of people play, and then sing in a church choir also. And yeah, I don't know.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I grew up with the stereo on in the background a lot, and my mom especially listening to music and everything. I remember being so young and getting my first 45, which was Buddy Holly's That'll Be the Day. And,
wow.
But I was too young to read. So I remember I used to have to always go to my mom and ask which side it was. And we finally drew a little arrow on it or a star or something, so I knew which side to cue up every time I wanted to hear it.
That's so cute.
I know. And it's like, and then obviously became like this huge thing, but huge fan, but like playing instruments for me, I've kind of taught myself to strum a few chords and stuff like that. I don't have the discipline to practice like I should. And then most of the practice stuff is just so boring, so it's kind of like hard to get going. But I was impressed with your guitar playing as well. I mean, you did not only the loops, but just some of the finger picking songs that you did. And then when you broke the dulcimer out, that was pretty cool too. So I'm guessing from you describing, singing the old murder ballads and stuff like that. You guys go back into that really old timey kind of vibe with the majority of the things that you're doing. I mean, it's certainly reflected on this record right here.
Good. I'm glad it came out in there. Sometimes you don't know what's going to shine through, but those are my roots. So yeah, basically from learning from what my family taught me growing up, the old timey and the traditional stuff, and then channeled through, of course, the folk revival of the 60s. So, mix it all together. And yeah, dude, I feel like if I practice guitar, there's levels I really want to get to that I just can't get to because I don't have the discipline or the patience. And I keep telling myself that I just can do it if I do it, but I don't. And that's something I really want to do in the future is because I hear lines in my head and I want to be able to do it, but sometimes I'd rather just hire a guitar player to do it.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot for me to think about on stage. Like I get nervous, like I'm going to mess it up. Like I just need to get that confidence. Like if I'm like a 16-year-old dude, like, yeah,
Yeah.
Do it. And that's a mental place I need to get to. So anyway, I feel you on that.
I'm sure that you could do it, but yeah, it's always kind of like, for me, if I want it bad enough, I'll usually find a way to get it done. But, you got to have that motivation up front. So tell our listeners a little bit about your journey, Proud, no pun intended, name of the album, but you've recently relocated here to Orlando you were kind of splitting time between South Florida and Nashville. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, and then I was based in Nashville for a couple of years.
Okay.
And yeah.
So your family is here in Orlando, so you've been pretty familiar with Orlando for a while and everything.
Well, not really. We're really from Gainesville, and my family has lived here, but I would just go to their house, and that was it. And then I would leave town again. Yeah. So okay. I didn't really even know where the grocery store was or anything. So when I moved down here, then I kind of am getting a feel for the scene. But of course, right now there is no scene because we're all on lockdown. But I'm super excited about getting to know it once it opens back up. I know there's a lot of great rock clubs, a lot of great acts come through here, which will be awesome because I can see them and, get inspired and maybe even open up. I don't know. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, right.
But I still really want to keep a foot in Nashville because I don't know. It's one of the few places I've ever lived where I feel really not like an alien, where I just feel like, oh, these people are kind of like my people and they get me. Yeah, which I searched my whole life. The journey has continued. I've lived in Boston, New York, and Tampa, and Miami for a long time. And I don't know. When I got to East Nashville, I was like, this feels like home, except for the cold, which doesn't do well with me at all. But as far as the music and the vibe, and everyone's actually really welcoming. So I do want to keep a foot there. I think between Orlando and Nashville, I will be well tended. Yeah.
Well, I agree. I mean, when I was in Nashville, we lived there around 2002 to 2004, somewhere in that area. And I went back about 4 or 5 years ago for the first time since, and could not believe the growth in that 10-year period.
That's what everybody says. And I went there late, so I'm like part of that growth. And I feel bad, but I'm like, I can't help it. I only learned about you guys now, so that's why I'm coming now. But yeah, apparently it's just exploded. And I tell everybody, I'm like, I know I'm part of the problem, dude, but I can't help it. I live in here anyway.
Yeah. Well, and that the whole East Nashville vibe, you know, especially the kind of artsy bohemian community, lots of a lot of the whole music scene kind of congregates in that area, and
perfect.
Yeah.
When they used to do these tribute shows at the Basement East before it got kind of destroyed by the tornado, I was so thrilled because they were doing tribute shows like where everybody would cover a song by artists that I love and that were not like other towns aren't really doing that. Like they would do a whole night of Lucinda Williams or like Ryan Adams, who I'm still a fan of, and Tom Petty and that kind of stuff. So that kind of throwback music is right up my alley. And you don't get that in a lot of towns, I guess, because it's a real songwriting town, as opposed to Miami, which is really more about electronic and kind of DJ music. So that was really cool when I was up there. So I can't wait to see what Orlando has going on.
Well, we've talked about, a little bit about that on this show in the past. You know, my take on it is I think that it's getting better, and there is some incredible talent here and everything, but it really surprises me that a town our size with one of the largest college populations doesn't have more of a vibrant scene that people seem to be talking a lot about and getting active and involved in. So, you know, I'm a little bit outside the loop too, getting older. I'm not going out as much. I'm not, you know, going to these, you know, clubs, you know, every night.
Oh my God.
It's like usually somebody I really want to see to get me out there. But are they
late shows? That's the thing. The thing I love about Nashville, it's not like, oh, they're going to start at like 1 a.m. It's like, dude, they're going to start like at like 8 or 9. Okay, I can do that. So I appreciate that because then it's like, you know, so I won't be destroyed the next day.
No, I totally get that too. And so, I mean, we're starting to get more venues and everything, but, you know, one of the things that I would really like to do is to find some kind of vehicle to advocate for the scene a lot more. And, you know, this podcast, it started out as more of a career advice type thing for kids that were in the tech world. And we're starting to add more and more music. There's talk about going to, you know, breaking it into 2 different shows in general, where we have one that's just focused on music and going, and then the other one that will still focus kind of like on the career advice and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. But once we get through all this quarantine mess, my commitment to you is to take you around to some of the clubs so that you can kind of see what's happening. And still, you know, you'll be able to get a good night's sleep, because if I make it past 10, 11 o'clock, that's a big night for me, you know? So, yeah.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait for that. Honestly, that's going to be great because I miss just the smell of a rock club. I miss those, you know, that gross smell. I'm like,
stale beer and tobacco. Yeah.
That's what I'm like, I missed that.
Yeah. There are a couple of pretty cool places here. Now, is there any possibility, I guess before I ask you this question about bringing your band here or whatnot. Now, the way I understand it, you've got like a couple of bands like around that you play with and whatnot. Yeah. Who is the core of your band? Tell us about that.
So my strategy for touring has been small regional little trips because I don't have the money for a national tour to just bring everybody along. I'm not there yet. I mean, maybe I will be one day. So I have bands that are in areas. Like I have my Texas band, and I have my Nashville band, and then I kind of have a Gainesville band too, and I have a New York band. I love my New York band; they're so great. Well, everyone's great, but my Nashville guy, my guitar player, he's kind of become essential because it's just I love working with. You get a real vibe going. To me, as a singer-songwriter, as like a solo artist, as they say, I can have different people back me up, and it's still, it's not like too different because it's more about the song. It's not like we're, say, a group where everybody co-writes and it doesn't work unless they're all there. But right. That being said, it still makes a real difference to have a group of people that are a family, that vibe, that are tested. There's a psychic thing that happens. So it's starting to congeal a little bit, where I got my guitar player in Nashville, and I'll fly him down for festivals and stuff. And then I got a really great drummer too that's based in Gainesville. But now my sister's here in Orlando, and I need to recruit her to be my singer with me because we have a really good time. And she's the best backup singer that I've ever played with. So, I just need to figure out how this is all going to work. I can't really see the future right now because everything was canceled, which I think is smart. We had to do that, but I can't really envision anything right now. I have to just kind of wait and see when the world opens back up, what's it going to look like? Maybe some venues aren't going to be around anymore. Maybe some smaller festivals have had to close their doors, and I know people have lost sponsors. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes. I was going to do a new record, but now everyone's broke, and I'm even too broke to do. I don't know, dude. So we're just going to have to go back to the basics, some porch jams, and just see what happens. But yeah.
Are you spending any of your time writing, during this quarantine time, or do you already have a stockpile ready to go?
I kind of have my songs that I've been working on for the past. I'm not really writing right now, and it's a little bit bugging me. I think I don't really have the psychic space to write because I'm with my family a lot. And I need to be alone. I have to be alone to write. I'm not one of these people that will just write like in the corner where everyone's walking around. Yeah. I really need to kind of get my solitude, my space. So I am writing lyrics, and I am thinking of things, but I'm also listening a lot to a lot of the music that's been coming out. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of John Prine, of course. Rest in peace. We just recorded a cover of one of his songs, which I'm going to get mixed, and I might put it out on Spotify in honor of him.
Right on.
Which my mom sang on.
Oh, nice.
She sang the lead because the song is a real talking, like hardcore song, and I don't really do a talking narrative very well because I don't have the gravitas yet. But she's old, so she sounds cool doing it, older than me. But I've been listening. I listened to the new Drive By Truckers album, the new Lily Hyatt album. I got to listen to the new Fiona. I just got to absorb, and then we'll see where that takes me.
Nice. Yeah, all of those that you mentioned are in my rotation as well. In fact, we had tickets. There were 3 shows we had to cancel because of this virus, but we were supposed to go to St. Augustine to see Isbell. We had tickets here for the drive-bys, and there was one other show, and I can't even remember what that was that we had to cancel. But I
was so excited about them coming here because I've never seen them live.
The drive-bys?
I was so excited because, yeah.
Yeah, we saw them. I saw them for the first time. I'm kind of like a late comer to them. I've always known about them and like listened to them, but that not the last record, but the one before it just really grabbed me. And some of the lyrical content that talking about the issues that were happening in the world today and everything, just super poignant and just a really tight band.
Yeah, Well,
but they'll be back.
They'll be back. We'll all come back.
Let's talk about this record right here. So how long has this been out? Journey Proud.
August. Came out in August.
Okay.
And it was recorded half half in New York and half in Nashville with my New York band, and then half with my Nashville. Well, some of my Nashville players.
Okay. And I want to, I like that there's actually another little Orlando connection here. Anybody that's been around Orlando and the music scene for any amount of time knows Shani Ray, who used to own the Sapphire Supper Club, which is now the Social. And she co-produced half of the record with you on that. She's now living up in New York, and I love her. When I worked for Universal, she always took such great care of me whenever I'd come into town for shows at the Sapphire and whatnot. I saw so many great shows there. It was just incredible.
God, I would have loved to go. I don't know what the heck I was doing when that was going on. Too bad for me, but Shadi's awesome, and that's why I recorded it up in New York with her, because she heard me and she's like, I'm going to help you make your record. Let's do it. And so we went up there, and she kind of like even helped pick the songs because I had a lot of songs, and she was there in the studio like trying to fix the vibe and saying, let's do this way. Let's kind of do it a little more teeth, a little more edge, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so she was a real big help. And she's awesome. And then we were just going to make an EP, but then like I decided on my own to like add more songs when I was living in Nashville. I was like, no, it's like, cause it had just taken a little bit longer than I thought. And I was like, I really just need to make this a full album. Like I have these songs, and why am I just going to spend all this time and release a short EP? Let me just add like 4 or 5 more songs, and then it'll be a full record. And so that's why.
And I'm glad you did, because the songs on here, I mean, there is a diversity to the record. And we're going to play another track here in just a minute. But, there is definitely a diversity, and it's not like you just threw some songs together to add filler. There's some cool stuff.
I hope not. I mean, not every song can be your favorite. Some of the songs, it's funny, I wouldn't have picked. Some I would have. Some I wanted to put on, but they weren't picked, and then I just kind of put them on my own anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'm like that. But yeah, I think we got a good mix. I mean, there's always something when you look back that you're like, oh, was that song? I don't know. Maybe that song wasn't one of the strongest, but like, I don't know. I love them all.
On Scenes from a Spanish Cantina, I think is really cool. It's got kind of a real loungy vibe to it.
That one's funny. That's one that Shani picked, because I put it on all my demos, and that was one of them. And I just was like, it doesn't match. It's so weird. But she was like, no, it's cool. So yeah, I think it came out really cool.
It doesn't necessarily have that same vibe, but I think that's what's cool about it. It kind of brings a whole different perspective, and it's a cool song. I'm curious, who is Sean Walsh? Is he your guitar player, or just somebody that he sang with you on You Shoot, I Drive?
Oh, I was sorry. It took me for a second, because I do have another guitar player named Sean. Yeah, he was my duet partner. He's a singer in a band called the National Reserve.
Okay.
They're up in New York, and he sounds great, right?
Oh, it was a cool song too. I like the song itself. What song should we play? Let's play another one off the album. Which one would you like? What do you want us to play? And what you're going to have to set it up and tell us what it is. So,
well, I don't know. I like Hard Liquor a lot.
Let's do it. Yeah, that is a very cool song.
Truer words were never spoken.
Yeah.
The song called Hard Liquor.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us, it's another in the long line of alcohol-related tunes.
It's about an ex-boyfriend. Who liked to drink a little more than he liked me. So that's what it's about. But I really like this song because I like the guitar part. It's in an alternate tuning, and it's always really fun to play. I never get tired of playing that little riff. And We did it through, I forget which amp, but it's a vintage amp and it buzzes a lot. And we left that in the recording because, it's a little messy, but it sounds cool. And those vintage amps always have that, buzz.
Yeah.
But this is an older song, and I just dig it. I always like playing it, and the message is still true. I'm sure.
Cool. So here it is again off the album Journey Proud. This is Hard Liquor.
Get your alligator shoes from off the closet shelf. Honey, get your blue designer suit and that white shirt I wash myself. Fix me a drink and break my health. 'Cause you like hard liquor and easy with my head. You like hard liquor and easy with mine. It's an easy song to sing, but I hardly sing, I hardly sing. Honey, you say you don't aim to please. Take your word and leave my cares. Honey, take your daddy's Porsche keys and take me somewhere. You don't take me nowhere. 'Cause you like strong liquor and weak women at night. You like strong liquor and weak women. It's an easy song to sing, but I hardly sing, I hardly sing. Honey, get your alligator shoes from off the closet shelf. Honey, get your blue designer suit and that white shirt I wash myself. Fix me a drink and break my health. 'Cause you like hard liquor and easy with my head at night. You like strong liquor and weak women. It's an easy song to sing, but I hardly sing, I hardly sing. It's an easy song to sing, but I hardly sing, I hardly sing.
Okay, that was the song Hard Liquor from the Journey Proud record. Nice job.
Thank you. Thank
And
you so much.
so, again, having listened to the record before you played at our house and everything, I thought like, wow, this is a cool record. I dig it. And then seeing you live and some of the guitar work that you did, you've been playing for a long time. You were talking earlier about being taught, guitar and your non-willingness to practice like you should, but damn, what else you need to do? I mean, that was some good stuff.
Well, solo. I could shred. Okay, I could shred.
Nice.
We'll see. It doesn't. I'm not interested in like being this amazing. Like, stick with your strengths, right?
Yeah.
So that's not a strength. I like a cool melody line. I like a cool finger picking line. I'm not going to be that kind of player where you see flames and smoke coming out of their fingers when they play. And that's okay. That's okay.
Leave that to the Malmsteens of the world.
Yeah, I don't think I could even get there even if I tried. But I would like to just have a little more facility to play what I hear. But you know what I need for that? I need like a Strat. Like, I don't have the right guitar. Like, I need to inspire myself by getting a new guitar. That's what we need right now to go
new guitar
shopping. Yeah.
That's funny because it's always like I kind of say that to myself, and I don't even play really, but it's like, if I had the right guitar, I'd probably play better,
Right? Well,
it would make me at least want to practice more.
Exactly. Sometimes I'll just try a different instrument just because it has a different feel. That's why I do so many alternate tunings, which is very annoying to do live because I have to switch guitars all the time. But if I put something in a different tuning, it just kind of breaks me out of my patterns, and I'll just hear the notes for what they are rather than as, this is the, this chord. Because I can think about that too much and it can be a real burden. Like, I wish I'd never studied music theory actually, because I think it just ruined a lot of music for me.
Really?
Yeah, because I've had to try to re-embrace, there's such a limited harmony that we have in what we call pop music, like this whole diatonic scale. It's just very limited. It's all the same chords, but it's not really about the chords, right? It's about the lyrics and how they work with the chords, and trying to do something new with the same 3 colors of paint that we all have.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not really about, wow, that's a crazy color. I've never seen that color before, but it's about how this color blends into this color. That's the beauty of it. That's the artistry, rather than new modulations and different harmonies, like in jazz or atonal music and stuff. So sometimes I just have to be like, okay, yes, everything is minor 6 1 4 5, but that doesn't matter. It's what you do with it.
Are you a fan of the band XTC? Do you know about them? So they were an 80s kind of post-punk band that their leader, Andy Partridge, wrote some incredible pop songs. There's a great movie, a documentary that I think you can get on Showtime right now on demand called This Is Pop. And there's a section in this documentary where he's talking about songwriting, and he describes how he hears in pictures. And there's a name for this, and I can't think of what he called it, but he would like play a chord or find a chord that he's not familiar with and just strum the guitar, and that sound would conjure up images for him. And that's how he came about writing most of his songs.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was a really incredible process. But you're right. I mean, you've probably seen that video that's out there where they play the same 4 chords and show how it goes into basically every song you've ever heard, That's
the progression. Yeah, that's the progression. But there's so many great songs like that, like Stand By Me. I have a song that's similar to that, and I was like, but then again, it's like, why are you going to be so arrogant enough to think that you're going to create like a new chord progression? It's not about that. It's about all the elements combined.
Yeah.
Like how the lyric meets right up with the chord change and how you have the groove and stuff. And the thing about Americana music and a lot of country stuff is that it's, I'd say, backwards looking. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it's looking more back on a long tradition of actual physical instruments instead of programming. And it's steeped in the tradition of songs and folk music. And so rather than some real avant-garde pop music, which might be looking really forward-looking, that pushes culture forward. I think about that a lot, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing because I don't know, I'm still analyzing that. That's part of my ongoing internal monologue that I have about music. Like, is it okay? Are we still pushing art forward even though we're backward looking? And I don't know, but that's what I do anyway. I look towards the traditional music to inspire me. So, but yeah, to think like you're going to come up with something amazingly new, it happens very rarely. Like I have to listen to the new Fiona Apple record because I hear that it's kind of like a new genre. Like it sounds like a new genre of music. You know?
You've not listened to it yet?
I've heard like little snips, and I'm like,
okay.
But I have to like sit down and focus on it, you know? And then we'll see. But
yeah, it's totally being hailed as a masterpiece, and I've listened to it all the way through once and halfway through. Personally, it's not my real cup of tea, but I really truly appreciate what she is doing here. She is definitely bringing something new to the pop record.
Right.
Yeah. And
whether or not you like that something new, or is it listenable? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like something maybe like really fresh and brand new and avant-garde and breaks barriers, but is it listenable? Okay, maybe not. Is being listenable important? I mean, I don't know. It depends on what you want to make music for.
yeah.
And there's room for everything. There's room for music while people are doing the dishes, and there's room for music when people are like grieving. And I just think there's room for everything. So it just depends on what you want to do with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like, that's to me the beauty of music. If like I need a pick me up, there's a record that I can put on. If I need to come down because I'm a little too out there, there's a record I can put on, you know? And
yeah. So sometimes I feel bad that I'm not, oh, am I too much this? Am I too much that? But it's like, no, dude, you're just you. And then if somebody needs something else, they'll go somewhere else. Like you can't be all things to everybody. You just have to be what you are good at. And the trick is to find out what that is.
Well, I've always said
that.
if you look at any of the artists that have had any staying power, they're pretty much doing what they want to do, in the sense that, there's, having worked in the industry, there were so many manufactured bands, okay, when Alanis Morissette got really big, I think she was on Warner's, one of the Warner's distributed labels. Everybody had to have their own Alanis Morissette now. It was like, so you started seeing all these kind of copy artists come out, that
I know, but that was great for women because finally people were like, oh, now we need our own woman. And it's like, well, yeah, but we were around before.
Yeah.
You just have one successful reference point that you want to, yeah. But I totally see what you're saying. But we had a moment in the 90s where being a woman actually was like, good for you. Like, oh, great.
Yeah, and that's cool, but it's like, who are these artists now? It's like none of them have really stuck around yet. Alanis, who kind of created that thing, she's still around. People still know her. Her records still get played. So I just think it's important that, you play from the heart. And, that's one of the things I think that I love about your record. In your music, it was like, again, you feel it, it's real. Before we move on, because we're almost getting towards running out of time here, but I wanted to talk a little bit about, I think one of the things that blew everybody away at your performance was the guitar loops that you did, because they weren't your typical, playing an accompaniment. You were kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like you kind of like orchestrated a few songs with your loops and everything. It was really cool.
A few songs, yeah.
How did you get started doing that?
Doing like 4-hour cover gigs solo.
Yeah.
And it was it's a long time for one person to play and sing. And I just was like, I need a looper so I can at least do a little solo or really do the harmonies. Because they're so important to me, because growing up with my sisters, I'm like, I need the harmonies. So I would loop the harmonies, but of course not every song, lends itself to a loop. It just depends on the song, but I can use it for some. I can adapt some songs to a loop, and then I can have like an extra guitar thing in there, or so it's just kind of fun to play with every now and then. It's tricky though, because like it's so addictive to do it live, but then I'm like, I'm not really like a loop act. Like there's some great loop acts like Reggie Watts and stuff. I'm not like a loop act, but I do sometimes use a loop. So it's like a fine line to try to walk and see, is this, is it all about this or is this supporting what I'm doing? But it is fun.
Yeah, it was totally cool. And, the last thing I mentioned earlier, you broke out the dulcimer there for the end and towards the end of the set, which was really cool. You should think about you should do like a hardcore, like old timey, sitting on the porch record like you were talking about earlier with your family. That'd be really cool. I mean,
well, we have definitely talked about it. Trust me.
Yeah.
Especially after this live stream concert that we did, we were like, now's the time to make the family record, The trouble is me and my mom going head to head and fighting over which songs and how to record it, because I'm like, no, you have to let me like direct it. Like I want to do it how I want to do it, but we're going to fight about that for the rest of quarantine. We'll see what happens with that.
Get an outside mediator to do that. And then that way, neither one of you do it.
Shani, let's call Shani back up.
Hey, and I'm available too, let's make it happen.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
Well, so tell me, you mentioned a couple of the records that you're listening to now. Tell me a little bit about some of the older acts that you've gravitated towards that have provided the inspiration. Growing up, I'm guessing you probably listened to things like the Louvin Brothers and, the Delmore Brothers, all the different,
We listened to more like Mississippi John Hurt,
okay,
Lightning Hopkins, Randy Newman. My parents had like an eclectic record collection. It wasn't so much country, as folk, and rock, like a lot of psychedelic rock. I personally loved Bonnie Raitt and Aretha Franklin. And then through the 90s, I loved all the alt rock and I loved all that weird stuff. I'd love to get much more into rock music. But I need to like spend a lot of time with my band, like just bored in a garage, like making noise. I think that's how you get there. Just
right.
Pushing the walls out, which that sounds like that would feel really good to do. But, that kind of stuff. And then as far as the traditional stuff, it wasn't really recordings. I didn't hear recordings of it. It was just people singing it. So like weird stuff like sea shanties, although I did hear some Bob Dylan bootlegs where he did a few of those sea shanties that I heard, like Sir Patrick Spence or like New Mary House Carpenter. Do you know that song?
No, I don't think so.
Me. Anyway, these old folk songs that you can find some recordings of people doing it. A lot of them are field recordings, like just at some musicologists going out there, like while someone's milking a cow and stuff. So yeah, all that kind of stuff mixed together,
That's cool. Have you seen the show that I think you can stream it on Amazon right now? It was a PBS special that was produced by Jack White and Robert Redford, and there was one other guy involved, and it might have been like Scorsese or something like that, but it's called American Epic.
No.
Okay, you've got to watch this because basically...
I thought for sure when he started saying, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard about that. But then I'm like, no, I have not heard about that.
So it's really cool. So like the first 3 episodes, there's a 4-episode series, and the first 3 are documentaries talking about the story of the Carter family, right? So one of the reasons that artists back then got so big is like when the Carter family started recording, they were doing songs that were handed down from generations, but nobody outside that holler in, Bristol, Tennessee or Virginia had really heard that stuff, because locally what you heard was what you heard at church, what you heard at the local ice cream socials, things like that. So all of a sudden they start recording these songs and they're available across the country. So Hawaiian artist, or when you mentioned Mississippi John Hurt, he's featured in this. Nobody had ever heard anything like that until he recorded some of those sides. And now all of a sudden you've got like everybody going, oh my God, what is this? So it's a really cool documentary for the first 3 episodes. The final episode is Jack White cobbled together one of these recording machines that they used to use back in those days. So it was one of those things that recorded right onto the acetate.
Yeah.
And it had this big, like, 100-pound weight that, like, drove the thing. And when the weight hit the ground at exactly 3 minutes, the song was over. So when you were in the studio and that red light went off, you had 3 minutes to get your song out.
Is that where the 3 minutes thing came from?
Yeah, you
Wow.
have one mic for everybody. So what he did is he brought current artists in to redo some of these old songs by the people they featured in the documentary. So you've got people like Beck, Elton John, Willie Nelson with Merle Haggard, the Alabama Shakes, all these great acts coming in
So good.
and recording in this. And it was just so interesting to see how far we've come, and them having to, adjust that one mic. Beck recorded with a gospel choir and it was just drowning everything out. So he had to sing into the mic like at a whisper right up in top of it because everything around him was coming in. So it was just a really cool process. And
wow, that sounds, I'm going to watch that.
It's definitely worth checking out. But I
love Jack White. I kept thinking that I would run into him in Nashville, like, hey, what's up?
Yeah. I'm a big fan too. And especially for me, with him being from Detroit and me being from Detroit, it's cool to see some other artists coming out of Detroit and making the impact. Like back in my day, it was all about, Bob Seger, Iggy, MC5, all of that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And, now you've got, Jack kind of leading the charge up there. And I go into Third Man Records every time I go back to Detroit. I always pop in there and buy a few slabs of vinyl. So
super cool.
Yeah, it's really good. So, okay. So, we're almost running out of time here. And, if you feel up to it and would like to do a song for us, cool. If not, I will edit this part out. So it's entirely up to you and no pressure.
Yeah. I'll do it. I'm just trying to figure out which one I'm going to do, but let me think. I don't know if you can hear it though.
I can hear it.
Guitar?
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right, you gonna put some reverb on my voice there, Carlos?
Yeah. If anybody can, it's him. So, what are we gonna hear?
I guess I'm gonna play my song called Gainesville.
Okay.
It's kind of a new song. I played it a couple times at shows, but it's not recorded yet. Is that okay, or did you want something from the album?
No, like an exclusive would be awesome.
Yeah, this is exclusive. Yeah.
You can only get it on the This Is Orlando podcast.
This song is very harmony based, but I don't have the harmonies with me. But it's still gonna work okay.
All right, cool.
I'm born of the blood from my mother's core, shaking and screaming for love of the Lord. But the devil's been on me, working with pride. He's been on my heels for most of my life. I am held caught with the backyard keys, knocked on the door of the dreamer of dreams, and I've had the champagne, and I've had the swim, and I'm gonna stay until I'm gonna stay.
So live like they told you, in love with your name. But hear what they call you without of the rain. And some are so married, some are the green, and some are from carrying devils on sea. I kicked around Nashville with holes in my boots, slinging through Texas with cowboys and dudes. And I'll write you a song 'cause I had to kill. And I'll sing all ladies blue. Oh, I'll sing bury me next to my dog in the yard, next to the fence that he used to guard. We can live easy, or we can live high. My lonesome highway has emptied the lights, and angels and devils fight over my past. Keep rolling your stone, you're a blown daffodil, and I'm going home to Gainesville. Oh, I'm gonna stay in Gainesville. Oh, I'm gonna stay.
That's awesome. That's a new one, huh?
Thanks, man. Yeah, I wrote it over the summer, and Morgan's been singing it with me and my sister. It's kind of like it's got this Irish thing, and when we do it live, the harmonies are cool. It's kind of like this old ballad or something. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it's kind of like a drinking song.
Yeah.
Irish way.
Oh, there's a surprise. Yeah.
What shocker.
Yeah.
Save that for my UK tour.
That's awesome. Eden, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us, and welcome to Orlando.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you. We'll definitely have to hook up and get you out to some of the clubs that are out here. There's a lot of there's a lot of places like what we talked about. The music starts at 8. You're done by 11, and it's like you have a full night of music and everything, and there's some cool people. So, man, any last thing that we didn't cover that you would like to talk about, or are we pretty good?
I think we did a good job. Just tell everybody to stay in touch with me by finding me online. That'd be great. I'm on Facebook and Instagram almost every day, so come look me up. And
I will, as I always do, I will put those links in the notes on my blog where I host the podcast. The live stream that you did, I had every intention of watching that and never made it. Is it still available online?
Yeah.
So we can find that on your Facebook page? Yeah,
go and check it out. You can see the whole fam.
Yeah, no, I definitely will for sure. And, man, thank you again. And I want to thank Ed for helping get this all set up and everything too. So
thanks, Ed.
For those of you out there that have stuck with us, thank you for staying tuned and listening. As always, I got to send my thanks out to Carlos for everything that he does. I hope everybody's doing well out there. I know for me, it's been the last week, it seems to have gotten a little bit tougher. I think I'm starting to get a little bit stir crazy. But guess what I get to do today? I get to go do a little bit of plumbing work in one of my bathrooms. So, I'm pretty excited about that.
Amazing.
So it is pretty cool. But thank you all for listening. We'll be back soon with more episodes of This is Orlando. We love to hear from you, so make sure to hit us up either on on any of the social media sites or directly at my blog, which is at robcoble.org. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will talk to you all soon.